There are moments in life when anger does not roar, it whispers. Imagine standing in a crowded room, smiling as expected, while a quiet tension curls inside your chest. No one sees it, yet it burns. You tell yourself, it's nothing, I'll let it go. But it doesn't go. It settles, shaping the way you breathe, the way you love, the way you see yourself. This is the nature of repressed anger, the invisible flame that many carry but few acknowledge. Psychologists estimate nearly a third of adults suppress their anger, mistaking silence for strength. Yet silence has a cost. The body grows restless, the heart uncertain, the soul weary of its own denial. Tonight, we will not treat anger as an enemy, but as a hidden guide. A voice long ignored, waiting to teach us where our true boundaries lie, and what it means to live authentically. One, the silent fire within. There is a kind of fire that rarely announces itself with noise. It does not shout across the room or slam the door. Instead, it smolders quietly inside the human chest, hidden, contained, yet powerful enough to shape an entire life. You may have felt it before, the heat rising when your voice was dismissed, the pressure tightening when your boundaries were ignored. And yet, instead of releasing it, you swallowed it down. Outwardly calm, inwardly burning. This is repressed anger, the silent force many carry without ever naming. It disguises itself as politeness, patience, even strength, while beneath the surface it whispers a different truth: something is wrong, something has been denied. Psychologists estimate nearly 1 in 3 adults live this way, mistaking suppression for self-control. But unspoken anger does not vanish. It seeps into the body as tension, into the mind as doubt, into relationships as distance. To understand repressed anger is not to fear it, but to listen to it. Tonight, we step into that hidden fire. Not to extinguish it, but to uncover the message it carries, the invitation to reclaim our boundaries, our authenticity, and the courage to live with unshaken presence. 2. What is repressed anger? Beyond simple suppression. Anger, at its core, is not evil. It is a signal, a pulse from the psyche that says, a boundary has been crossed. A need has been ignored. Something must be seen. Yet when this voice rises, many of us do not answer. Instead, we silence it. We tuck it away behind a polite smile or a quiet nod, convincing ourselves that peace is better than conflict. But there is a difference between healthy restraint and repression. Suppression is temporary, you feel the heat, but you choose to hold it back in a given moment. Repression runs deeper. It is when anger becomes so unwelcome that we bury it in the unconscious, refusing even to admit that it exists. And like anything hidden in the dark, it begins to shape us in ways we cannot see. Repressed anger is not gone, it is disguised. It may return as anxiety, guilt, self-doubt, or subtle hostility. It influences the way we speak, the choices we make, the stories we tell ourselves about who we are. To recognize this difference is the first step toward integration, learning that anger unacknowledged is not silence, but a hidden author writing chapters of our life. 3. The hidden cost: how repressed anger shapes body and mind. Every emotion carries energy. When allowed expression, that energy moves, transforms, releases. But when anger is silenced, the energy does not disappear, it lingers, circulating in the body like trapped smoke. Over time, this hidden fire leaves its mark. Muscles tighten, jaws clench, the chest feels heavy as if carrying a weight unseen. Doctors call it tension. Psychologists call it repression. The body knows it as unfinished business. Research has shown that chronic suppression of anger is linked to cardiovascular problems, weakened immune response, even persistent insomnia. The mind, too, bears the burden. Self-doubt grows where truth was denied. Anxiety whispers where words were never spoken. Relationships fracture under the pressure of unspoken grievances. Outwardly, a person may appear calm, the peacekeeper, the agreeable one, but inwardly they feel restless, exhausted by the effort of carrying silence. The greatest cost, however, is more subtle. Repressed anger erodes authenticity. It convinces us that our needs are unworthy, our boundaries insignificant, our voice unnecessary. And so we live a life half-spoken, half-felt. This is not weakness, but the inevitable consequence of energy unexpressed. To heal, we must first recognize that every hidden flame burns something, whether our health, our joy, or our sense of self. 4. Disguises of anger, sadness, anxiety, and passive aggression. Anger rarely vanishes, it changes its mask. When it is not given voice, it slips into other emotions, wearing disguises that even we may not recognize. What feels like endless sadness may in fact be grief laced with unspoken rage. What looks like anxiety may be the body bracing against conflicts never addressed. Even guilt, an emotion that whispers, "You are at fault," can be anger turned inward, punishing the self for what it was never allowed to release outward. Sometimes, repressed anger emerges in subtler forms: sarcasm, passive-aggressive remarks, the sighs and silences that carry more weight than words. These are not accidents. They are the steam escaping from a sealed pot, small leaks from pressure too long contained. The person may appear polite, agreeable, even kind, but beneath the surface there is a reservoir of fire shaping every interaction. This masquerade is dangerous because it confuses not only others, but ourselves. We start to believe we are only sad, only anxious, only tired, when beneath it all is anger asking to be heard. To lift the mask is an act of courage, for it reveals not only our hidden pain but also the truth of what we value, what we need, and what we refuse to tolerate any longer. 5. Childhood roots, when anger became unsafe. No one is born afraid of anger. Children feel it freely, screaming when their toy is taken, stomping when their needs are ignored. But somewhere along the way, many of us learned that our fire was dangerous. Perhaps a parent's face hardened when we cried too loudly. Perhaps a teacher scolded us for bad behavior when we defended ourselves. Perhaps silence or punishment followed every honest outburst. The lesson was subtle but powerful: anger is unsafe, anger makes you unlovable. And so, the child adapts. To survive, they bury their flame. They smile to keep peace, nod to avoid rejection, swallow words to protect belonging. What begins as a defense slowly becomes an identity: the agreeable one, the polite one, the one who never makes trouble. Yet behind that mask lives a child who once wanted to scream, "See me. Hear me. Respect me." Culture deepens the script. In some families, anger is seen as weakness. In others, it is treated as sin. Over years, repression becomes second nature. By adulthood, we no longer remember the moment we hid our anger. We only know its absence, and the hollow it leaves where authenticity should have been. 6. The Shadow, Jung's perspective on repressed emotions. Carl Jung once wrote, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." Within each of us lives a hidden counterpart, what Jung called the shadow. It is the collection of feelings, impulses, and truths we exile from awareness because they seem unacceptable. And among the first to be banished is often anger. When we repress this fire, it doesn't vanish, it slips into the shadow, influencing us from the depths. The polite smile that hides resentment, the sudden irritability that feels out of character, the dreams filled with conflict we refuse to face by day, all of these are the shadow speaking through us. What we refuse to acknowledge in the light becomes the silent author of our behavior in the dark. Yet Jung insisted that the shadow is not evil. It is unintegrated energy, raw potential awaiting recognition. To meet our repressed anger is to stand at the threshold of self-knowledge. It asks us, what boundary was crossed? What truth was silenced? What part of you still waits to be honored? In embracing the shadow, anger ceases to be a saboteur. It becomes a guide, illuminating the path back to authenticity. 7. The loop of self-denial, why suppression feels safer. At first, repression feels like control. You feel the surge of heat in your chest, and you tell yourself, I'll rise above it. I won't let anger get the best of me. For a moment, it works. The room stays quiet, the relationship appears intact, the mask remains unbroken. But beneath the surface, something else begins, a cycle that feeds on itself. The irritation that was swallowed reappears as self-criticism. Why am I so sensitive? That self-criticism grows into guilt. I shouldn't feel this way at all. And guilt demands silence, pushing the anger deeper. The next time irritation rises, the loop repeats: anger, denial, self-blame, suppression. Slowly, the person forgets where the anger even began. They only feel the tension, the restlessness, the unshakable sense that something is wrong. Psychologists call this the suppression loop. It is subtle, almost invisible, yet it drains energy day by day. And because the loop feels safer than conflict, many choose it unconsciously, believing it protects their relationships. But safety bought with silence is fragile. The cost is authenticity, and the loop becomes a cage. The truth is, anger was never the enemy, it was the key we refused to turn. 8. The gift inside anger, what it's really trying to tell you. Beneath the heat of anger lies something most of us overlook: information. Anger is not chaos, it is communication. Each flare of irritation, each quiet resentment, carries a message about who we are and what we need. It points toward boundaries we failed to defend, values we betrayed, truths we swallowed to keep the peace. Think of anger as a compass. When ignored, we wander in circles, endlessly repeating the same conflicts and disappointments. But when listened to, anger reveals direction. It shows us where our yes was dishonest, where our no was never spoken, where our silence cost us more than our voice ever could. The gift inside anger is clarity. It says, you matter. Your needs are real. Your boundaries deserve respect. For centuries, cultures have painted anger as destructive, but in its conscious form, it is creative. It fuels justice, sparks change, inspires courage. The same fire that burns in secrecy can illuminate when brought to light. To see anger not as an enemy but as a teacher is to reclaim power. It is to shift from denial to awareness, from self-betrayal to self-respect. The whisper of anger, once feared, becomes a call to live more truthfully. 9. Pathways to integration, how to work with repressed anger. Integration begins not with explosion, but with recognition. To work with repressed anger is to sit with it, to name it, and to let it tell its story. One of the simplest yet most powerful tools is journaling, writing down the moments when irritation arises and asking, what boundary was crossed? What need was unmet? In ink, the invisible becomes visible. The body, too, holds the memory of silenced anger. Practices like mindfulness, breathwork, or even simple awareness of where tension sits, jaw, shoulders, chest, help release what words cannot. Movement, whether through running, dancing, or striking a punching bag, transforms static fire into flowing energy. In relationships, language matters. Instead of silence or blame, using I statements can voice anger without destruction. I feel dismissed when my perspective is ignored. Such honesty builds bridges rather than walls. And then there is shadow work, meeting the younger self who learned that anger was unsafe. To look into that child's eyes and say, your voice matters. Your feelings are valid, is to heal generations of silence. Integration is not about conquering anger but inviting it home. When anger is honored, it ceases to wound and begins to guide, toward clarity, authenticity, and deeper connection. 10. From suppression to transformation. Repressed anger is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of a deeper dialogue with ourselves. For too long, many of us have mistaken silence for peace, politeness for strength, and repression for maturity. Yet the truth is clear, what we bury does not vanish. It waits, shaping our health, our choices, and our relationships in quiet but profound ways. But when we choose to turn toward this hidden fire, something changes. Anger no longer appears as an enemy but as a messenger. It becomes a compass pointing us back to our own boundaries, our own dignity, our own truth. In its raw energy lies the power to protect, to create, to transform. Carl Jung reminded us that to become whole, we must make the darkness conscious. To meet our repressed anger is to reclaim authenticity, the courage to speak when silence betrays us, the wisdom to say no when our soul demands it, and the compassion to honor our own needs as sacred. So the invitation is this: the next time anger whispers in your chest, pause. Listen. Ask what it is trying to tell you. For within that whisper lies not destruction, but the possibility of freedom. If you've ever felt the weight of unspoken anger, know that you're not alone. I'd love to hear your story. Share your thoughts or experiences in the comments below. Your words might be the mirror someone else needs. And if this video gave you a new perspective, consider subscribing. Together, we can keep exploring the hidden corners of the human psyche, uncovering the truths, the shadows, and the quiet fires that shape our lives. Don't miss the next step in this journey of awareness and transformation.